Okay, Chad Millman is the CCO of the Action Network. All of our odds provided by FanDuel starting today for the next 20 weeks. We bring him on every Friday morning. We call it Sharp or Square. I am a square. I will give him the games I'm considering for my Blazing 5. I usually have about 7. I'm leaning one way. And then at the end, I'll say, you give me a really sharp pick on your own, and maybe I'll steal that. It's all about me. That's really how this business operates.
Listen.
All right, Millman, you ready to go?
It is Colin Cowherd's Volume Podcast Network, okay?
By the way,
we make no mistakes.
Look at this right here.
That
Espresso.
is Fancy Town.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the ones I've liked all off season. I've already laid a little lettuce. Vikings, it's now 1.5. I got a better line. Vikings plus 1.5 at home, where they have Kirk Cousins has always been formidable against the Packers. Say what you want about Captain Kirk. I think they're going to win straight out. I think Green Bay by Thanksgiving, October, maybe the rookies then are ready to be big contributors. I don't think it's going to be the first week of the season. I'm going to take the Vikings straight out, sharp or square.
That is very sharp. Very, very sharp. The Packers going on the road to play the Vikings. Everyone will always make a big deal about how Aaron Rodgers has owned his division, how Aaron Rodgers against the spread has owned his division. The majority of that is against the Lions and the Bears. It's not as much success against the Vikings. And I do think we saw some of this last year early in the season with the Packers too. You are going to have a transition period without Davante Adams, who, by the way, was especially effective against the Vikings. So now Aaron Rodgers is going in with receivers nobody's heard of, who he hasn't really played with. Allen Lazard has been banged up. And you've got an offense in Minnesota, again, Captain Kirk, who knows, but you've got a great running back. You've got an all-pro caliber receiver. You've got an offense that will probably be more explosive, probably be a lot more efficient on first down and not put Kirk Cousins in positions where he has to make bad decisions. You mentioned this line has moved. That is a fact. It has moved from about 2.5 down to right now. It's Minnesota is, let's say, plus 1.5. So sharp, my friend.
Okay. This one's a little dicier because the Lions' O-line's a tad beat up, and it is the strength of their football team. I'm going to take Detroit, now down to 3.5, at home, lively dog against Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia by year's end is a better team. But again, lesser teams don't know they're lesser teams in September, especially a Dan Campbell team that's chewing up kneecaps and running through firewalls. So I like the Lions here getting more than a field goal at home, sharp or square.
Classic sharp spot. This is one that Wise Guys pegged as soon as the lines came out. The Lions, you mentioned the offensive line. It is a strength of their team. It is one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. They've also got really good talent on the edges at running back and at receiver. Jared Goff is perfectly serviceable. It's been a team that last year, even in spite of having a 3-13-1 record, never gave up, especially against the spread. They were effective. The Wise Guys fell in love with them. They were a team that everybody has pegged as being one of those teams that will not quit. Wise Guys are going to be with this team all season long. They like the Lions plus 4. A lot of them are taking a little bit of a taste on the money line for the Lions to win outright.
All right. I like dogs this week. Texans plus 7.5 hosting the Colts. The Colts are the better team. They have, in recent years, started slow. Matt Ryan is new. I think they need and will eventually get production from Alec Pierce, the early draft pick from Cincinnati. But right now, you cross your fingers if Paris Campbell can be productive and healthy. It's kind of a one-man band in Michael Pittman. The Colts are going to win some low-scoring games this year. And Davis Mills ain't bad. It's not bad. I think a live dog. I think you've got new people in the building. They play with a lot of spirit early. I think it's closer than we think. I'm taking Texans 7.5, sharp or square.
It's totally sharp. When you were saying not bad, not bad, if I closed my eyes, it's almost like I was on Curb Your Enthusiasm. I could hear, he's not bad. He's not bad. Davis
Not
Mills,
bad.
if he had stayed in college for another year, you could argue he would have been top 10 quarterback drafted in the NFL this year. There wouldn't have been talk about Kenny Pickett or anybody else. It would have been Davis Mills because he played well enough as a rookie to earn the right to have that job.
Hey, by the way,
go ahead.
his completion percentage his first year with an average O-line, his passer rating, I've said this about Tua. If you'd never seen him play and looked at his numbers and said, defensive coach, bad O-line, you'd be like, Then you see Tua and you're like, he's small, his deep ball dies. If you never saw Davis Mills play and you said, second worst O-line in the league, not much to work with, bad coach, here's the numbers. He's got a fairly live arm.
And a long neck. And everybody knows that when you have a really long neck, that portends greatness in a quarterback. That's why the wise guys love the Texans right now. What's interesting, this is the biggest delta between the public betting markets and the professional betting markets. So if you go to actionnetwork.com, you look in the app, you can see how many tickets are a game, the percentage of the betting tickets, and the percentage of the money. Right now, looking at the stats, it's about 55% of the tickets are on the Colts. Tickets are always an indication of public money. The percentage of money is 86%. That is an indication of professionals liking the Texans. 86% on the Texans. Biggest delta there is of any game. It's why, even though the majority of the bets are coming in on the Colts, the line has moved down. It was at 8.5 on Sunday. It went down to 7.5. Colin, it's now at 7. This is when I would say, all right, it could be time to back off. You want to be careful. But the Texans, wise guys, love them.
Okay, I'm going to throw this at you. This is the last dog I'll throw you because I like some favorites. So this is the last dog. Bears now is down to 6.5. Don't like it as much. At 7, I'm very interested. So what we know about Trey Lance at this point, he completes 55% of his throws when he plays NFL games. And Kyle Shanahan has publicly acknowledged he's not consistent. That's what we know. We know center, right guard, right tackle, Niners O-line is okay. We know the Niners have a much, much better roster. But Matt Eberflus, defensive coach, first game, throw the tricks at you, decent front seven. I think their corners are okay. I think it's low scoring. I think Kyle Shanahan has an uber conservative game plan. Keep Chicago close, even if they sputter offensively. If it gets to 7, sharp or square, I take the Bears.
Yeah, I agree. It was actually a game that I was struggling with a lot this week because I'm from Chicago, because I have such low expectations for the Bears. This is a great lesson for anybody who's sort of new to gambling, is how to keep your emotional biases out of it. Because you think you know your team better. You think you have an edge because you understand philosophy, you understand personnel, you understand scheme, whatever it is. At the end of the day, you bet the number. And the number this morning was Bears plus 7. I woke up this morning and I was like, what am I doing? How am I not betting the Bears plus 7 with a essentially rookie quarterback going on the road? It's a huge number. If it gets back to 7, people should take it. At 6.5, it's a pass.
Okay. All right. I made a mistake. I have one more dog I'm interested in. The number's not ideal, but I think they could win handily. Jags plus 2.5 against the Commanders. Commanders had a bad camp. Jags, by all accounts, great camp. And if you look at the biggest free agent spender over the last 5-6 years, they generally improved their win total substantially. I think the Jags are a better team. We don't know it yet, but I think they're a better team. I think they're going to go into D.C. and beat the Commanders. Sharp or square?
Totally sharp. This is another one of those numbers that has dropped precipitously. It went through a key number. A key number is 3. It's called a key number because a majority of games land on key numbers 3, 7, 10. 4 is becoming a key number because of the 2-point conversion. The Jags were 4-point underdogs. They are now 2.5-point underdogs. That number is dropping, by the way. It will probably be at 2 before kickoff, if not 1.5. Everyone agrees with you. Look, to me, I'm very bullish on the Jags. We talked about this on the Favorites podcast. We love the Jags as 7.5 to 1 to win the AFC South. I bet Trevor Lawrence 70 to 1 to lead the NFL in touchdown passes. I could see a lot of people talking about Trevor Lawrence as an MVP candidate. We can say all we want about Frank Reich and what he did with Nick Foles, and he was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl. Doug Peterson was the coach. Doug Peterson did plenty. And with the way Frank Reich has handled quarterbacks the last few years, you've seen that Doug Peterson probably was much more involved than anybody is giving him credit for. You give a really thoughtful, freewheeling offensive coach a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, I'd say go get the Jags as AFC South to win before the season kicks off. Definitely take the Jags at plus 2.5.
Okay, here are my favorites. In his career, the very impulsive Baker Mayfield has been able to harness that emotion for singular games. The revenge win over Ohio State. The revenge wins over Texas Tech, where he had huge games. The revenge win over Hugh Jackson when he went to the Bengals. The win over Pittsburgh. Now, over the course of time, he is impulsive, and he can't channel that emotion properly. He's got too much of an ego. He tends to be, again, somebody that doesn't take a deep breath. He never falls on the sword. He creates controversies instead of suppressing them, is what the great quarterbacks do. But in these one-game situations, chip on his shoulder, I'm going to prove you wrong. I've seen it at Oklahoma. I saw it in Cleveland. He's been very good. He can harness it for a week. Carolina's going to win outright minus 1.5. They were 3-0 to start the year last year with Darnold, and they're a better football team. I like Carolina to win this game by a touchdown. Sharp or square?
100% sharp. I'm huge on Carolina this year as well. I have them over 6.5 wins. I'm a big fan of Baker in this spot. Last year, for everything you said is true, he gets in his own way. He was also injured last year, and I think that had a big impact on his ability to perform. I think in one game, first game of the year against a team that doesn't have its top quarterback, that he is very bitter about, that alone makes it the right side. I also think the Panthers, like at home, their defense is improved just by virtue of Baker Mayfield being on the offense than Sam Darnold being on the offense. It gives them more of an opportunity to perform better. Christian McCaffrey, healthy, maybe for the only time this year because he'll have to play a game. So now's a good time to bet the Panthers. So yes, 100%, especially with this line dropping a little bit.
Okay, one more favorite. I hate doing this. I really hate it because I get talked into stuff. Kansas City minus 5.5. Okay, timeout. Arizona had a weird offseason. J.J. Watt may not play. DeAndre Hopkins will not play. Kansas City, Andy Reid is absolutely a messiah in September. They've got a lot to prove on the Tyreek Hill deal. They want to, there's a lot of questions about, will they be as productive? I think they'll be as productive. I don't think they'll have the lightning strike ability with Tyreek Hill. He's your Aaron Judge. You can get runs very fast. That won't be that team, but the production will not drop. I think Kansas City could pound them a little bit here. Chiefs minus 5.5. Sharp or square?
Right side, wrong number. So good instincts. This is funny because over the years, we've known each other for a long time. You've gotten much, much sharper when it comes to these kinds of conversations. And a lot of your picks today, the Texans, the Lions, like these are very sharp picks. One of the basic principles in betting, and I explain this because there's probably a lot of new people listening who are net new to betting, right? Because your podcast network is getting so much bigger. So you want to get the best of the number.
Right.
The best of the number here was 3. And so now what's happened is there's been a backlash to the Kansas City backlash. People were like, oh, without Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs are screwed. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, right? And people started to doubt his ability. He's a future Hall of Fame quarterback who's won an MVP and has won a Super Bowl and can perform like few people we've ever seen. Their offensive line is still really good. They still have really talented players. The Arizona Cardinals barely can put together a defense right now. They've got Kyler Murray, who is inconsistent. They've got Cliff Kingsbury, who is consistently inconsistent when it comes to calling plays. They're missing their best wide receiver. To me, the Chiefs are the right side, but I'm not going to do it because if this game lands on 3 or 4, I'm going to be angry and I'm going to realize, why didn't I bet the best of the number? So for me, it's a pass, but I think it's the right side.
Okay, and finally on Sharp and Square, I always say, you like these ugly games. And I do not. If I can't watch it or don't want to watch it, I have a hard time betting it. So give me a game this week that the sharps, the guys that they live in Chicago and eat nothing but steaks. Who are they betting this week?
There's a couple games we didn't talk about. I'm gonna give you some options, and then
time out. I'm gonna guess one.
Okay.
The guys that have a T-bone for breakfast, like the Giants.
The Giants are an interesting one. There is a lot of sharp sentiment on the Giants. Personally, I'm not buying it. Not at all. Now, Daniel Jones, 9-0 on the road against the spread. So he's always been, that's sort of the line on him, is that he's better away from home than he is at home. I just don't think he's good enough. And I think the stat is rookie head coaches in their first game are 3-19 since 2018. So now you've got a rookie head coach going on the road to play a team that has a very good head coach and a competent quarterback. And they're not huge favorites. A lot of wise guys like this spot. They've been getting a lot of sentiment. I'm not a Giants fan in this spot. But there's a couple others that are interesting to me. Would you like to guess again, or you want me to give you one?
I'm done guessing. What are they?
Okay. I bet the Steelers plus 6.5. And to me, that number is too big. Too much hype on the Bengals. It's irrational. The number's inflated. Too much of a sort of discount on Mitch Trubisky being the quarterback. Mike Tomlin is the guy you bet in an underdog spot. Don't forget Doug Hodges. Don't forget Mason Rudolph. Don't forget this guy has won with bad quarterbacks throughout his career. He's one of the best coaches against the spread since he's been in the league. It's a rah-rah Mike Tomlin spot. He lives for these spots. He's terrible when he's a favorite at home. On the road, Mike Tomlin with a good defense, you back Mike Tomlin at plus 6.5. But the game that I like, that I'm going to convince you of, and you would never watch this game, the Atlanta Falcons plus 5.5 at home against the New Orleans Saints. Since 2004, divisional dogs in week 1, 58, 32-2 against the spread. That's 64%. Over the last 8 years, they're at 29-9. And if you shrink it even more since 2018, the percentage is even greater. I've got a rookie head coach going on the road with a very inconsistent, unreliable quarterback. We know what we get in Jameis Winston, right? We know what he's going to be. He's a little bit quirky. He's going to make bad decisions. He's going to make incredible throws. He's going to throw for a lot of yards. Dennis Allen is not Sean Payton. Sean Payton, he's a guy who knows his way around a number. He knows how to cover a spread. I don't get that from Dennis Allen, who in his few years coaching has not been very good against the spread. Meanwhile, you've got a coach, second year of the offense. He likes Swiss Army players. He's increased the number of Swiss Army players on his roster. In this spot, at a dead number like 5.5, you got to take the ugly home dog.
By the way, new FanDuel customers get $150 in free bets with any $5 bet. All right, we covered a lot of ground.
Can I sell you on a
Marcus
Seattle
Mariota?
Seahawks? Seattle Seahawks plus 6.5.
Okay, I can't do it. I cannot bet on Geno Smith. I can't. There's things I can't do in life. There's things I can't do. I'll never jump out of a plane. I'll never bet on Geno Smith.
Betting means doing bad things.
I'll never kill a man. There's 3. Okay, jump out of a plane, kill a man, bet on Geno Smith. I can't do it.
Those are definitely really solid rules to live by. Here's the thing. If someone proposed to you, if you don't bet on Geno Smith, I will kill this man. Would you bet on Geno Smith?
No,
Would you
can't do it. Can't cross that line. I can't be seduced into going across. There are lines and parameters and boundaries. I remember meeting him at the parking lot in ESPN. They were bringing all the ACC quarterbacks or something, Pitt, and Geno Smith was there. He's a big, strapping kid, nice enough. But I remember I had the same feeling years later with Marcus Mariota, or maybe it was before or later, it was in the same time, that I want my quarterbacks to be like eye contact and engaging because you have to be in a huddle. And Geno and Marcus Mariota are so non-verbal. And it bothers me. I don't need you to be Chris Rock. You don't have to be Bill Burr. You got to look me in the eye. You got to be engaging. You're going to have to talk up teammates. And I've never been able, I can't get it. I can't unsee the moment I met Mariota or met Geno Smith. They were big, strong athletes, nonverbal, at the world's most verbal position. And also, I think Marcus is actually pretty talented. That's why the Atlanta bet, when he's upright, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good player. Not a lot of weapons, but pretty good player. I can't bet on Geno because he has accuracy issues. Unlike Mariota, he can't run off script. I get nothing. He won't look me in the eye. He's nonverbal. He's not accurate. Shit, I'd jump out of a plane with a dead man before I bet Geno Smith.
I feel like there's certain spots in a year where you want to bet on a team. Last year, Jacksonville against Indy. Maybe it was the year before. Like Jacksonville beat Indy in week 1. That was a time when you bet Jacksonville. This year, when the schedule came out and we saw the Lions +4 against the Eagles, that was a time where I knew we want to bet the Lions. You probably want to get a little bit of a taste on the money line. This is one of those spots. It's a highly emotional situation for Russell Wilson coming into a new offense, into a now hostile environment that used to be his home, with a team that, say what you want about Geno, they still got Metcalf on the outside. They still have serviceable running backs. It's still Pete Carroll in a game which he is going to be thinking about motivating his team in different ways. They'll get up for one game this year. They're a terrible team. They'll get up for one game. This is the game. And 6.5 is a big, big number.
Chad Millman, Action Network.
As a road favorite.
Every Friday, it's called Sharp or Square. I'm clearly the latter. I'm getting better. But this is one of my favorite segments because I do feel like we are at some point not only educating me, obviously, but the audience a little bit. We all get sharper. So it's good seeing you, buddy.
Good to see you too, man. Good luck this weekend.